so excited to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
It's great to be here at Imaginarium with you. I'm Meg Watt, for anybody who's looking. Please tell everybody who you are.
My name is Ligia Cushman, and I am from the Bronx, actually.
Nice. I'm a New Yorker too.
I was a New Yorker a long time ago.
I live in Pittsburgh now.
Yeah, I live in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, yeah? Nice. You're my second Floridian in a row.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Previously Orlando.
Yes. I know who you spoke to.
Yeah.
I know her very well.
So welcome. I'm really excited to learn more. You have a beautiful cover.
Thank you.
And I'm a hoe for a good cover. Everyone knows this. So tell us about your books.
Yes. So a year ago, I got this desire to really write my very first novel. So Rise of a Dark Throne is a story that's very personal to me because I grew up reading dark romance, dark fantasy, but never were the main characters women that look like me. And so during the pandemic, like everybody else, I just took some time to craft a novel. I crafted this story. It's primarily women of color, so they play the main characters. They're the heroes, they're the queens. And on top of that, it's inspired by the Caribbean, where my parents are from.
Amazing. So one of our viewers, Rose Gold TikTok, is, and Danya is going to lose her mind. Because we actually had a conversation before I came. I was like, we were sponsoring this event, and I was like, everyone look through the list, see who you want to label. And Tanya always, that's a big problem for her. She's like, I'm looking for BIPOC authors that are in the fantasy space.
Yes.
And she said that again, and I was like, have you looked at the list? Because this is your event.
This is the event. This is the event.
You need to be here.
100%. 100%.
And walking around, I was like, oh, man. Because it's so amazing.
Yes.
There's been, thankfully, more moves into this space.
For sure.
But there's a lot more work to be done.
100%.
And so, but being able to be in a room like this where you look around and there is real true diversity and there is really new voices.
New voices, new stories.
It's not, that was like, I do a lot of these interviews.
Yeah.
We read a lot of books. And it's like everybody thinks their baby is pretty,
Of course.
And a lot of people write the same. And, again, you've got to do what you got to do to sell books.
For sure.
But, a lot of times you're writing what you know, like what you've read before. Writing something that's new and giving it sounds like you not necessarily in reinventing the wheel, but putting new faces in those roles.
I put new faces, but also I feel like, one of my TikToks that went what I would consider viral, right, was focused on the idea that I write a dark fantasy that doesn't have it's not about elven culture, right?
Right.
It's not about British folklore. It's about Black people and Afro-Latinos, and our stories matter too. And so I did a deep dive too when writing this about, my parents are from the Dominican Republic. So I really needed to research the nuances. What are the meanings behind fireflies for people of my culture? Do we have animals that roam in the forest? Don't we, right? It was all those things. And I think when people read this novel, one of the things that I was most apprehensive about or most anxious about was this world building piece. How am I going to make this world come alive?
Right.
And that to me was the best part, is that when a reader reads it and they, give me the review and they're like, the world building is exceptional, or I felt like I was there. So it's when I talk about my world building to folks, to give them a visual picture, it's like Avatar. Everything glows at night. Everything is inspired by this bioluminescent bay where the first wedding in the novel takes place. I wanted people to see what I had in this mind of mine that I didn't even know I had until I started putting pen to paper. And of course, yes, I am definitely also a fan of beautiful book covers. So I had my husband, who's a designer, design all the book covers. So book 2 was designed by my husband, book 1 as well. And that we've really taken this journey together has been pretty awesome.
Together, yeah. You can't see him, but he's over there.
Right over there.
It's very cute. User assistant. It's the rule. It's the way it should be.
Yes.
So, what's next?
Next is Magic Rising. It's book 2.
Okay.
It's already gone through editing. We're literally getting ready for publishing. But it launches in September, only because I have a crazy gig in my real world, and so I needed to space it out. But Magic Rising comes out in September. This book, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of TikToks go a little viral after they read this book. Some people are crying. Some people are throwing my book because it ends in
a
cliffhanger.
Dun.
It ends in a cliffhanger. Yes, it does. But so does book 2. I probably will end it at book 3. I promise. I'm trying. Don't hate me, but love it. I promise you'll love it. But my hope is eventually for people to fall in love with Mosa, the island that I created, the world, Transia, that we've created. I want people to fall in love with it. The other thing that's next that's kind of fresh and new is that Rise of a Dark Throne just went out on Audible 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I don't know how we're making all of this happen, but we are. And Ruthie Bowles, brilliant voice narrator. I wanted it to be a woman of color, so it was really important for me for that person to represent the women in the book. And it just launched like 2 weeks ago, so we're very excited to share that with everyone too.
So I am a hybrid reader in that I read on everything.
Me too. Absolutely.
I do not consider people who listen to Audible less than.
I agree.
At any given time, I am reading a print book, an ebook, and listening.
For sure. Same.
I have to read a lot of books, but
right.
But also just that is how my brain can work, and it frustrates me that like Goodreads doesn't consider audiobooks that you're reading to be a account for a book you read.
It's crazy. But, especially when you have like people who have learning disabilities. And
there's a lot of reasons to listen to books.
Correct.
But also, people who have small children and they're running around and trying to get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
I started, for those who don't know, LitBuzz because I used to travel 65% of the year for work.
Wow.
And I was constantly in an airport or on a train or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I listened to books or I read books and then I would review them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how this started.
Wow.
But
awesome.
My life didn't mean that I could sit down in a comfy chair and read a book. It meant that I was on an airplane trying to avoid the people next to me with my headphones in and listening to like getting lost in somebody else's world.
Right, for sure. I'll tell you, honestly, once I got on TikTok, which a lot of my friends were like, get on TikTok, that's where your readers are.
Right.
And I didn't think they would be there, but they were there. And they came by the thousands, like really fast.
And they're looking for you.
And they're looking for audibles.
Yes.
Every day I had 20, 30 messages like, is this on Audible yet? Is it on Audible yet? So there is a market for that.
Right.
But I also feel like stories come even more to life when somebody is reading it to you. And
as long as you can get into it.
It's got to be a good...
that's what I'm saying. The narrator has to...
Right. It's got to be a legit narrator, for sure. And I say if you're going to do it, invest the money in a real good narrator. Because if you don't, then you're just throwing money away.
It's a waste.
It's a waste of money if you don't have someone who can do it well.
You get lost,
And if the voices sound too similar, like
they can't do lost. Accent, like the accent's right, or they can't pronounce like this. This has come up several times today, but pronunciation of your character names. Like I don't, you've thrown a name out already where I'm like, there's the places and things like that pronunciation may be important. And if I think of audiobooks as my way of knowing how the author wants me to pronounce
100%.
it. So if they don't,
if they don't ask you, if they don't ask you, she and I sat together on a call and I said, these are all the names. And then she spoke in their voices and let me choose, is this the right voice you have for so-and-so? In your mind, like, what were you thinking about? And for me, there were a couple of voices that I was like, no, that is not how they sound. I need it to be more gruff. I need it to be more, and she met it. But professionals know how to do that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and and it is an investment so I see readers comment this
all the time
about audiobooks all the time.
Yeah.
what you may not understand as a reader is how much of a financial commitment
Correct.
is involved in doing an audiobook the right way. And especially if you're an indie author, you don't have the control to, you know, to do that. And if you are not, even worse, if you're not an indie, if your publisher does not want to invest in that, you're SOL.
Yeah.
So while you may want that, and it frustrates you that a book comes out and it's, and this is my, I'm up on a soapbox, but
go for it. It's the truth.
it's really frustrating for authors. Like, I have this conversation with authors all the time where, like, I want to put it out. It's not that I don't want to do it, but
it's expensive.
It's very expensive. It's time consuming because I understand you're not in the booth doing it.
I'm not.
But it's a back and forth process if you're doing it the right way with the narrator. If you have multiple narrators, that's a whole other.
I don't even want to talk about that.
You know, it's there's a lot of things there. So be patient with authors.
Please be patient.
They're trying. But it's wonderful that you took that step, because
it was important to me. One, because I'm an avid Audible listener, like audiobook listener, but I also am dyslexic. And so there was no way I wasn't going to invest in that and make sure that folks like me could also read this magical world I created.
And it's not even, you know, obviously there are actual disabilities, but there are also people who just have trouble reading.
For sure.
You know, that's either it's, you know, I will see a book that is this thick and I'm like, whoo, challenge accepted. But other people are like, I can't do that.
That's right.
You know, but they can listen to it.
For sure.
It's not as daunting.
Right.
So bravo for doing that. So is the plan to then just continue having them come out in audiobook as you do?
Yes. My Audible, my voice actor narrator is here. And she was like, when's the next book coming out? I said in September, but you're going to get the manuscript way before then because I want you to start recording. So yeah, we're excited. And to your point, it is expensive. Not everyone can do it. It was, you know, when we were coming up with how much is this going to cost, and we're still trying to figure out how much does it cost to be an indie author. It's expensive if you want to do it well, right? So you've got to hire like 2 editors or 3 editors. You've got to have a beautiful book cover that helps people. And all of these things cost money.
If you're talking about issues with, you know, with people that are not of your actual culture,
right?
Sensitivity readers, very important.
Right.
Absolutely. You know, and not for nothing, but that's important if you're talking in gender identity as well.
100%.
I don't think that
100%.
People don't understand that is another area where sensitivity reading is not a cultural issue necessarily.
It's not.
It is something that you don't know.
You need someone with that expertise to teach you about it.
I'm a plus size woman.
Right.
When I read a book
right.
that is about a plus size character, because right now there's a lot of them coming out. And I can tell.
And a lot of them are not written well.
I can tell that the person who wrote this has never experienced being plus size.
Right.
And that is not, go you.
Right.
I'm very happy for you.
But
please don't write about me if you don't know me.
Correct. And so, I think as an Afro-Latina, there's a lot of books that have been written about, from my perspective, by people who don't look like me, who have never experienced what it means to like walk in this skin, have this hair. And for me, that was the easy part for me in writing this book, right? But I also have people from other cultures in this book. And so I had to go and talk to others. In my second book, I have the whole Taino culture, which is Tainos were Native Americans and indigenous to the Caribbean.
Right.
Especially Puerto Rico. I had to do some real work on that, even though my DNA says that I come from those people, because I haven't lived that. And so I've had to do some deep dive work to get it right. I never want to get it wrong. I never want to offend anyone. Like, that's never my goal. My goal is to be inclusive and do it, do justice.
Well, you're trying to show representation.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to do it the right way. And it sounds like you're on that path, which
yes, I hope so.
We need more people on that path.
I agree.
I think that we're moving in the right direction.
Yes.
But there's work to be done.
There is a lot of work to be done. but I'm here for it.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what is the best book you have read recently that is not yours?
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh, I read so many. Oh my gosh, what have I've been listening to? So I'm gonna tell on myself a little bit. I love to read smut novels, lots of them.
Girl.
I mean, why aren't we here? What are we here for?
Anybody who's read LitBuzz knows that we have no problem at all with some stuff.
There's a little smut in this as well.
I know everyone is really sad.
I know you're very heartbroken.
Carla is gonna lose it. She's also in Florida. One of our bees.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Oh man, I need to meet you, Carla.
Yes.
So I will tell you right now, I'm into I've never read these before, but I'm into these dark mafia series novels.
So I am not a dark mafia, but I have a 25-year-old daughter.
Right.
Sorry, Olivia, I'm blowing up your spot. And we share a Kindle account.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, honey.
What are you seeing?
What is she doing? I don't know what's happening right now, but yeah.
So a lot of them are audible. I'm pointing to my husband because sometimes I fall asleep listening to my books, and he'll be like, "What are you listening to?"
You're like,
"Good stuff. Very good stuff."
It keeps her marriage happy.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
He's like, I'm not complaining.
So I'm reading a whole mafia series by, I think her name is Tracy Ellen. I want to make sure I'm saying her name right. And it's like a brother series. I don't know how they're all like these gorgeous men, but they're all brother series. But to me, that's also research, right? So when I'm writing, sometimes I have male characters or female, whatever character I have that is like a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more, and books like that, like reading books like that help me like bring other characters to life. So I think that for me, it's helpful. I'm in the throes of writing my next book, like in the editing phase, the worst phase that there is.
So you need a palate cleanser.
I always do. So I'll take a break and I'll go and I'll just listen to something else about some crazy stuff happening for people. But hey, it works.
Do you?
I do me very well. Sorry.
That's fine.
We're gonna edit that out, right?
No, we're definitely leaving that.
Dad is gonna say. Dad is definitely gonna say thank you for that. My mother will be so proud. But it's there's a lot of, and again, I listen to those books and I'm like, dang it, why isn't it a brown girl, or why isn't it, So I'm really thinking about my next series, because I was telling my husband the other day, like, I'll be done with the third book probably by the end of next summer. And I was telling him, I think I want to write like a sci-fi dark romance, out of the neighborhood I grew up in. So I'm messing around with some of those ideas. If anybody has ideas, throw them my way.
She's ready. She's going to write them for you.
I'm going to write them for you. But yeah, I am into smut right now, and that's okay.
There's no shame in your game. So, according to a submission we got this week, we have lots of drugstore trash romance. So, yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
And it's fine because everybody has a different taste.
That's right. That's right.
We all have to be represented.
For sure. For sure.
So, if someone were to pick up your book, give them the elevator speech.
Elevator speech. So Soul wakes up from a plague. She was infected by a plague, and she wakes up with the one thing she never wanted, which is magic. She wakes up to find that her dearest love is gone. Her family has passed away, and she is summoned by the High King to come and heal him. And he's their enemy. And so he sends, of course, his dashing son, who's the second-born prince. So in my novel, all the second-born, third-born children don't really mean much.
Right.
And so they're all trying to like stake this claim of I'm a soldier, or I'm
I'm somebody.
I'm somebody important. And when the
Harry.
#Harry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when the darkness, this plague, right? When the darkness comes, it changes everything. You've got firstborn children dying, which has never been a thing in this world. You've got secondborn children having to step up into roles where they were never envisioned to be. And so Rivian and Soul are the two love interests in the story. Well, there's actually another set, but they're the two main love interests in the story. And you see them go from enemies to lovers to defending each other to figuring out, are we going to let this world burn down or are we going to save it? And is it worth saving?
Yeah.
So it's a coming of age story too, I think, for them. For
Nice.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to take in, but in a good way.
Yes.
So who is your reader? Describe them.
Oh, I had to do this. I love this question because I had to do this before I started writing. I needed to identify who my reader was going to be. And it's really for, I think of the younger version of me, the 20-something-year-old, the teen-something-year-old who was trying to find themselves in a story. So our main character is Soul. She's shy. And I think also, let me just say this, when we write Black girls into stories, we usually write them like these powerful women. They're really, going for it.
Or they're really bossy.
Really bossy. And she is none of those things. She is a second-born daughter, was not groomed to be queen, but here she is, now queen by default. She spends most of her time, like all of us, right, reading and diving into her historical books and literature. And so you see her evolve in this story. And I connect a lot to Soul because I was very much like that in my younger years. And by the end of the novel, she is a totally different person. She has experienced loss and grief multiple times. And she comes out at the other side of it really strong. So in the second book, I think people will see a different side of her than they did in the first book. But my reader, I wrote this book for girls like that.
Yeah.
People who don't always feel seen, who a lot of people didn't expect a lot of her. And she was able to do it. She even surprises herself. So halfway through the novel, she's like, oh, wait, I'm the queen. Wait, I can say, I can do. And so my reader is someone who is looking to see themselves in a story where you end up being the hero.
We all want to be the hero of our story.
Yes. And kiss a cute
but we
boy.
also want a little smut.
You get both.
Well, thank you so much
for
connecting with us. Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on Ligia Writes on TikTok and Instagram, and on my website, which is ligiawrites.com. Is that right? It's not right. LNGuzman.com. That's my website. Awesome. My husband does all my work for me. Thank you.
You need to redirect now because she set it up. So just buy the URL for $10 and away you go. So, okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And we will connect again later.